Shonen manga. Shonen basically means young in Japanese, which says that all the mangas are directed towards young audience. But regardless of their intention, the shonen is a genre loved by kids, young adults and olds. With series like Naruto, Bleach, Yu-Gi-Oh and One Piece, shonen took over the world by storm and introduced some exciting plots, intriguing characters and action-filled adventures to millions of hardcore fans worldwide. Currently, there are more than 50 series running in the most well-known shonen publication. But in this list, I have put some of the best ones out there. And I am sure that you will enjoy each of the manga mentioned in this video to the fullest. This list is about currently ongoing mangas. Recently completed popular series like Demon Slayer are not included. Also, One Punch Man is seinen, not shonen. Hence, it is not also included. So yeah, that was for the introduction. Now without any further ado, let's get into our video. On the 10th number, the manga name is Mission Yozakura Family. High school student Taiyo Asano has been socially inept ever since his family died in car crash. The only person he can properly interact with is his childhood friend Mutsumi Yozakura, the head of the world's strongest family of spies. Mutsumi's elder brother, Kyoichiro Yozakura, has been overprotective of her ever since he once rendered her severely injured. His love for Mutsumi is lethal, and Taiyo is his next target. To survive, Taiyo must marry Mutsumi and become a member of the Yozakura family. Thrown headfirst into chaos, Taiyo begins his journey to become a powerful spy in order to protect his wife and uncover the dark secrets of his past as well as Yozakura family. This manga is very enjoyable read. It is hilarious, the characters are lovable, and the relationship dynamic between the two lead characters is very healthy. Also, the romance is not dangled over our heads for 6 volumes before they get together, so this is not a problem in this piece. The characters have great chemistry and fit within the story very nicely. There sadly is a sister complex, but it gives the reasoning later in the manga why he clinges to her so tightly. This comic also does have some elements of seriousness and things that characters have personally had to battle with. There is depth to these characters and aspects that make you care about them. Mission Yozakura Family is more about external conflicts in the world that are targeting this family. It is about the bonds of becoming a family with the people who are not related to you by blood and about overcoming things together. On the 9th number, the manga name is Seraph of the End. Having lost his parent, 8-year-old Yuichiro Amane is taken in by the Yakuya orphanage, where he struggles to bond with his so-called family. However, this soon becomes the least of his worries when a major pandemic suddenly strikes, killing all above the age of 13. Taking advantage of the chaos, vampires who previously lay dormant underground rise up and enslave the surviving humans, using them as a livestock to harvest blood. 4 years later, Yuichiro and his family have adjusted to a life under vampire control. Although Yuichiro still aspires to kill all the vampires and end their region of terror, this often puts him at odds with the fellow orphan Mikaela Yakuya, who also emphasizes using wits to survive. Having collected favors among high-ranking vampires, Mikaela gains inside knowledge and uses this to plan a daring escape. But during this attempt, the group of the orphans is intercepted by a vampire officer Ferid Bathory, who proceeds to massacre all of them. Yuichiro is the only one of the group to escape to the surface, where he is discovered by the Moon Demon Company, a military unit dedicated to hunting down vampires. Given an invitation to join, Yuichiro accepts the deal, finally being presented as an opportunity to achieve his ambition and avenge his family. So overall, I really enjoyed it. There were moments that made me laugh. I did not find it predictable cause I came in the manga having no clue of what was it about. Though the story starts off as a cliche, but I think if you give it about 19 chapters, you will enjoy it as much as I did. On the 8th number, the manga name is Dr. Stone. Another great one of the end of the time subgenre. In 2019, Dr. Stone was awarded the 64th Shogashukan Manga Award in the Shonen category. Opening in April 5738 AD, over 3700 years have gone by since an enigmatic burst of light turned to stone virtually all humans in the existence. A 16-year-old prodigy called Senku Ishigami is unexpectedly revived to find himself on a earth where all remnant of the human civilization have been worn out by the passage of the time. Senku builds a basic lab and commences to examine the regified humans, so as to establish the origin of the incident as well as the treatment. The concept of the rebuilding humanity from the Stone Age with all the knowledge that we all have from the modern age is truly amazing by itself. Dr. Stone not only presents this concept to the public but also executes it very perfectly. The artwork from Boichi is truly outstanding. The high detail and the art really makes me appreciate it and wonders how does a man accomplishes this. The character designs, the details of the materials such as rocks, woods is just all amazing. Dr. Stone's main attraction for me isn't the characters. However, the clashing ideologies between the protagonist Senku and the antagonist Tsukasa is something that I have always been interested into to check it out. On the 7th number, the manga name is Black Clover. The plot is very straightforward, and like most of the shonen, this manga has a lot of comedy and action. One part that really made me read throughout the latest chapter at one go was the way the story was presented. In particularly, it has the One Piece feel thanks to the main character's personality and his nakama. But of course, let me clear that Black Clover is nowhere close to One Piece. Another interesting thing about this manga is that while it has a lot of focus on things you can't do alone without comrades, it does an overall exploit of the theme of friendship can beat everything, even when initially you lost terribly and when you are injured and you can still win, just like Fairy Tail. This is where it is interesting, as it is less predictable than a lot of shonen mangas, which is one reason why I like One Piece so much. Well, this is one of my favorite shonen thus far. It does not drag out a lot of chapters through one versus one fight, though at some points it reminds me of the Judge Bell and Bleach in the fighting scenes. The comedy is mostly very funny as well. Although there are quite a lot of cliches setting here and there, I can't say that this is the exactly rip-off of any manga. However, the lack of many one versus one battle and the inclusion of some unique concepts made this an excellent shonen manga for me. On the 6th number, the manga name is Blue Exorcist. It's a story about demons and exorcists, except in this case, the main character Rin is both a demon and exorcist. And not just any demon, he's a son of Satan. Rin has issues with his powers and keeping himself from being discovered by other exorcists. The character development is what makes this story the most interesting. Even after reading only a few chapters, you will feel like wanting to read more about how the future will be for this have gotten themselves into possibly more than they ever thought. The art in this manga is really amazing, but of course it's personal preference of the mine. The art of the manga reminds me a lot about Soul Eater's art. And what I love about it is that you can tell what is going on. With some of the manga series, there's so much detail that it is very hard to tell who's attacking who. So art is also really good. It has some really awesome fights, and although it's not on the genres, this manga does have some comedy in it. It's also not just pointless fighting. There's a great plot with it that keeps you on the edge and waiting for the next chapter. On the 5th number, the manga name is Boruto, Naruto's Next Generation. This isn't another Naruto, guys. Fans should stop comparing. Boruto Naruto's Next Generation is great and have different spin-offs too. It's simply an addition to the Naruto universe. If you are one of those who don't want to see Naruto stories to continue, especially with the new generation, it's fine. Just don't hate on it unnecessarily just to fit in into the crowd. Boruto is meant to be different, but it doesn't mean that it's bad. It's actually damn good once you move past the first 10 chapters. Especially some of the last chapters have been absolutely of high quality. In terms of storyline, once you get past the movie arc, it genuinely gets intense and fascinating to see each chapter unfold. This is the story about Boruto and his journey. It's not like the typical journey we have seen in Naruto, simply because the series starts off with Boruto having everything and knowing only of peace, but little by little, things will slip away from him. As shown in the future scenes at the very beginning of the chapter 1, we have already seen hints of being dropped as to why he will end up going to rough side. You have new and original concept introduced to the shinobi world, specifically technology and new incredible abilities. The future of the Boruto is bright. I personally can't wait to see them get more explored. As a die-hard fan of Naruto, this takes me back to the Naruto Part 1, and it gives me a lot of nostalgia. On the 4th number, the manga name is Jujutsu Kaisen. Set in modern day Japan, Jujutsu Kaisen is contemporary supernatural horror that recently rose to stardom after its anime became a hit during 2020's worldwide lockdown. The story follows Yuji Itadori, an abnormally athletic gifted high schooler who unwittingly finds himself embroiled in the supernatural after finding a powerful cursed object during an outing with a school's occult research club, an act that draws dangerous spirits to his high school. During a close encounter with the several cursed spirits, Yuji swallows his cursed object to absorb its power and defeat the cursed spirits. Now, Yuji's mind, body, spirit is fused with one of the most powerful, not one of the most, but the king of the curses, Sukuna. Now he must choose between swift death or joining Jujutsu High, a special school that trains Jujutsu sorcerers to fight the many cursed spirits roaming around Japan. Fans can continue to follow Yuji's journey to achieve a proper death. After the manga returns from a brief hiatus as series creator Gege Akutami takes a quick break from the focus of recent health concern, the manga series is gonna continue again. The series are for those who love hard magic system, good world building and are willing to wait for the story to pick up. That's as spoiler free as I can give you. I would say that the first few chapters of the series are very generic and it's not as interesting as Chainsaw Man. But after few chapters, it picks up a lot. The world still seems not yet vastly explored in Jujutsu Kaisen. We have only seen 2 schools so far and have not seen the heads of different Jujutsu families yet. We are not yet exposed to many potential storylines, and neither do we completely grasp the magical system, which definitely had hard rules yet. Read it now and enjoy the ride and follow the story of our boy Yuji Itadori. On the third number, the manga name is Hunter x Hunter. Welcome to the world of Hunter x Hunter, where people pursue to become hunters. But to become one must undergo hunter exam. Thousands of people participate in this exam. Among them is a kid named Gon Freeze who wants to meet his father, who is also a great hunter. But in order to do so, he must become a great hunter himself and follow his father's footsteps. Along the way, he meets Killua, a kid whose family is famous for being assassins. Kurapika, a kind and loyal friend, but at times reckless due to his revenge and motive. And then Leorio, a brash man who aims to become a successful hunter specializing in medical treatments. Yoshihiro Togashi is the same guy who wrote 1994's hit Yu Yu Hakusho, a successful long-running shonen. And this manga is also no exception. Nearly all long-running shonens throughout the anime history has already been labeled tedious, dull and unimaginative. But without fail, Hunter x Hunter will relieve you of that perspective. Hunter x Hunter simply has it all. Action, pragmatic characters, psychological contest, and it can be a psychological thriller or an action-packed manga too. Either way, Hunter x Hunter is superbly crafted. The anime played out with touches of pathos and humors, creating a superb atmosphere. The manga provided numerous slapstick comedies to lighten the mood a little bit, but when it's serious, it's serious. The intensity of Hunter x Hunter manga and the anime cannot be denied. On the second number, the manga name is My Hero Academia. To get right into it, the manga opens up on the premise of the world where superpowers have become commonplace. One superhero, All Might, stands above all and is idolized by many. Unfortunately, All Might's time is running short and he must pass down his powers to someone else. All Might, in his infinite wisdom, chooses a loser named Midoriya, who is shown to be a complete pushover who nevertheless won't stop trying. If you have read any shonen manga before, you will know where this is going. Midoriya and his AG rival joins the superhero high school along with the plucky teenagers who randomly befriends Midoriya because that's what happens at the high school. A bunch of events happen, not very interesting events, basically your average shonen stuff, but after reading few chapters you will easily start to love all the characters in it and you will really enjoy this manga. I think I don't have to talk much about My Hero Academia because most of the people already know about it. So without any further ado, let's move to the first number. On the first number, the manga name is One Piece. The longest and probably most famous of the big three and also the only one left standing. One Piece has reached almost 1000 chapters, 23 years of existence and a sort of legendary reputation. The series is at the top of the best-selling mangas in history and has spawned a huge media franchise with its anime, 14 featured films, video games and plenty of merchandise, just to name a few. As most probably know already, the story follows Monkey D. Luffy, the young captain of the Straw Hat Pirates who sets out with his crew to find a fabled treasure, One Piece, and be crowned as a king of the pirates. Of course, the goal of being king of the pirates is really a loose objective set forward to eventually throw Luffy and his shipmates into a giant boiling pot full of problems and adventures. What's special about this story is that it takes most of the run-of-the-mill concept and turns it into something fantastic and exciting. The concept of traveling from drastically different locations after locations is filled with endlessly creative characters and creatures that sets it apart from ever being dull. One Piece is my favorite manga. The story is such a grand and epic adventure. With each arc topping the previous one, the characters are so amazing and the art is cinematic and exciting. One Piece, without a doubt, is the greatest shonen manga I have ever had pleasure of reading, and I doubt it will be topped anytime soon. And suppose even if any manga beats One Piece, still One Piece will be my favorite of all time. Cheers to Oda for creating this shonen masterpiece, and may he continue to keep on going. One Piece is a manga that I love and hope to read it for many years to come. And I think that concluded about the top 10 best Shonen Jump manga ever. What are your thoughts about this list? Which are your favorite Shonen Jump mangas? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And if you enjoyed this video, just don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel because I post daily anime content about top 10 top 5 listings, anime reviews, recommendations, news, theories and all sort of anime content on daily basis. So if you enjoyed, please subscribe, and that was it, and I will see you in the next one. Sayonara.